Hi, I'm Valerie, and for my May 2020 lifestyle experiment, I decided to take a look at my sleep. So, though a person can really get used to anything, I suppose, the sort of chronic anxiety that's been accompanying something like an apocalypse. The whole situation with COVID-19 has not really improved my overall sleep quality. In my teens and 20s and even my early 30s, I would have considered myself a sleep champion. I could sleep anywhere, anytime, anyhow for as long as possible. However, sort of going into my late 30s, I was still good at falling asleep, but not necessarily good at staying asleep. So my usual issues had to do with disturbed sleep, I guess you would call it. Falling asleep and then waking up at some point and trying not to think about everything I've ever screwed up in my entire life, from petty preteen theft to that time I was unkind to someone at school, when I forgot my laptop before a presentation and I got stuck like hauling a old broken down computer out of the basement of the business that I was doing. Just not great stuff. So there were those things, memories of things I've done already. Then are all the doors and windows locked right now? What if the dog stopped breathing? All my relationship challenges, all my insecurities, all my worries about the future and worst case scenarios tend to weigh on me in the small hours. So I've become a lighter and more easily disturbed sleeper the older that I've gotten. Not to mention that I have some back issues that lead me to attempting to sleep sort of propped up, sitting upright on the couch on a regular basis to try to get comfortable with an assortment of pillows and props and etc. So I know and I'm aware definitely that I have some poor sleep hygiene factors that are impacting this, like knowing that I'll wake up in the middle of the night and trying to distract myself. I'll often fall asleep in front of the TV to the comforting sounds of diners, drive-ins, and dives, or I'll reserve sort of my mindless scrolling for trying to fall asleep, or when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll start doing that as sort of a way to entertain myself or distract myself from negative thoughts. So all of those things are not great. Cue also that it is springtime in Pennsylvania, so it means the days are longer, it's getting lighter earlier, and regardless of what time I go to sleep, when it's starting to get light out and the birds are starting to sing even before it's light out, I tend to wake up. So makes sense, I guess, that since one of the things I can track with my Fitbit is my sleep, I thought it would be worthwhile to address that. So for the month of May, my goals were to improve the length of time that I'm sleeping with a goal of 7.5 or 8 hours of sleep a night, and to get what Fitbit is assigning as a sleep score of good, which would be a rating of 80 or better on their 100-point scale. My goals for those goals are to improve my sleep score, improve my length and quality of sleep, knowing that sleep impacts weight, activity, energy, and mood, all of which are things that, who wouldn't want to see improvement on. So let's break down the sleep score as Fitbit describes it. So there's really 3 things that they take into consideration when they assign the overall sleep score. So we have first time asleep and awake. And this is important because experts recommend between 6 and 8 hours of sleep a night. And, sleep is individual to everyone, but I have always sort of leaned towards the longer duration when it comes to sleep. So that's why my goal is between 7.5 and 8 hours. Next, they take into consideration how long you are in deep and REM sleep. Your muscles repair themselves, and because I've been exercising more and more, that's an important factor. You're actually sort of tearing all these little muscle fibers apart, and sleep is what's going to help them bond back together and form bigger, better muscles. REM is really important because it's impactful for your memory and your mood. So, the final factor is your sleeping heart rate and your restlessness, because that's going to indicate sort of the level of relaxation you have and disturbance in your sleep. So what I did sort of in preparation for this was I did a little research, did a Google on how to improve quality of sleep, how do I sleep deeper, how do I get more rested, and I sort of combined those things, took a look at them, and then chose the ones that I would implement. So one of them was to set a consistent bedtime and wake up time. So whether it's weekend or during the week, try not to do kind of the sleep in that a lot of people do on the weekends. Try to keep it so your body kind of knows what to expect. So for me, my goal is roughly around 10 o'clock. I hope to be asleep, waking up then between 5:30 and 6 a.m. Next, it's to keep the temperature cool. And I did that for the most part. There were some days in May where the weather was nice enough that the air conditioning didn't have to be on. We did push it a couple days where humidity was rising, where we probably would have slept better if the AC was on. Avoiding large meals and exercising right before you're going to sleep. And the recommendations that I read were ideally within 3 hours of bed, you want to avoid vigorous exercise or hard exercise, and eating like a big meal, because both of those things can elevate your metabolism and your heart rate, which just does not allow your body to relax as well and achieve and maintain sleep. So one of my goals was to quit eating after dinner. And if I did exercise, it was generally just like a walk within 3 hours of bed. Another one was to avoid alcohol before bed, and I don't generally drink, so that's not really an issue for me. So in order to kind of help with these, I set a reminder on Fitbit based on my wake up time and my desired number of hours of sleep. And so I get a little reminder around 9:15 on my Fitbit that just says it's time to start winding down, and getting ready for bed. So my protocol would then be to heed that reminder and head into my nightly routine. And that's another thing that was recommended, is kind of set yourself up with like cues that let your body know, kind of ritualize that you're heading towards sleep. And for me, that's to wash my face, put on my moisturizer, change into PJs, floss, brush, mouthwash, pee, so that hopefully I'm not waking up. To do that in the middle of the night, take my contacts out, put my glasses on. And then a big one for me that was recommended in multiple articles was to limit your blue light exposure. So stop with the screen time, stop with watching TV. And the recommendations I read were about 60 minutes. Mine realistically was, I tried to within 30 minutes. 30, 45, once I got the cue from my Fitbit to stop with the screens. And in order to kind of promote that for myself, I did a little phone audit where I disabled a bunch of apps that I thought I probably would be better off not spending time on. I disabled a lot of notifications that kind of were automatically turned on with apps. And I also set timers on my apps because, you know, we all get sucked in. Well, maybe you don't, but I get sucked into spending way too much time on specific apps. And I just thought it would overall be better for myself to do that. I did swap that out and kind of as part of my routine after I would get, ready for bed, so to speak, and I wasn't quite ready to go to sleep, I would try to read as a way to, calm my mind. It'd be part of the routine and also to find time to read during the day. Another recommendation is about discontinuing caffeine. I read some articles that said to discontinue it as early as 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't quite go that far, but I did try to discontinue after 5 o'clock. I also try to limit things I know that disturb me during the night, like how often I let the dog sleep with me. I didn't cut her off completely. I'm only human. But I did try to get her not to as often be sleeping with me. Exercising regularly, I'm already doing that 6 or 7 days a week, at least 30 minutes. So I try to do it first thing in the morning. So that's something that's already part of my routine. Another thing I read was to not nap after 3 p.m., which is not a problem. I'm not generally a napper. If I'm really exhausted and I'm falling asleep on the couch at 7 o'clock, it's probably I'm going to bed early for the night. And something that I didn't necessarily see recommended, but something that I was trying to do kind of as incorporating this, was focusing on one thing at a time. I'm a big multitasker. Like I'm listening to a book on tape while I'm making dinner, or I'm sort of watching TV, but I'm actually scrolling through my phone at the same time. So I did try to give one thing my focus at a time, hoping that then I would apply those focusing skills to going to sleep. So I tried that. So knowing kind of what I went through and what I tried, I took a look at April because Fitbit allows you to look at overall kind of your records and your rating and examine kind of how things went. So I had a point of comparison. So in the month of April, in terms of my first goal of getting 7.5 or more hours of sleep a night, about 39% of the time. And I'll tell you, I didn't track every single night in the month of April. The Fitbit does have to charge sometimes, so if I fell asleep with it on the charger, obviously I didn't get stats for that night. But of the nights I tracked, 39% of the time, I got 7.5 or more hours of sleep. Now, in terms of the quality of the sleep, I did a little better. I got 48% of the time I had a sleep rating of 80 or more. So that's considered to be in the good zone. So again, that's considering the factors of time asleep, time awake, deep sleep, REM, sleep, and overall like quality, I guess, not how restless you were. So little less than half the time. Now, for the month of May, where did I end up with these new focus and new efforts that I was taking on? And I'll say I was not perfect with my efforts. The biggest challenge probably for me was not watching TV before bed, because that's very soothing to me. It's very sort of mindless and whatever. I did not really do better in May, and that's probably part of the reason I'm late on creating this video, is I was a little disappointed when it came to the bottom line numbers. Now, I did track more days in May, so I don't know if that was impactful in, April versus May, how I was doing. And I do think my sleep has gotten better since the beginning of the year. I didn't go that far back in examining it though. But so anyway, so for May, I got 28%, when it came to getting 7.5 or more hours of sleep. So I'm just not sleeping that much. In question of sleep score, I actually got the same percentage as April. So 48% of the time, just under half of the time, my quality of sleep is all right. I do have to say that I sometimes question the Fitbit, how realistic and what it's tracking. One night in particular in May, I kind of made a note to myself to check it the next day because I was up during the night because the dog was up sick. So I was letting her out. I was cleaning up dog vomit. So I knew that it was definitely a night with disturbed sleep. But I still got a score of 84, like got a good night's sleep, and I didn't feel like it the next day. So I don't know. There are things that I think I would do differently and could try differently. As far as the things that I've kept, I think the Fitbit reminder is good for me. So I've kept that. I have kept the nighttime routine. I do like, making sure I kind of have my checklist of things that I go through. And the phone audit was something I'm glad that I did. I'm not sorry that I did any of this, but it has helped me kind of think about some of the things that I can do better on. And some things I think that I could look at in the future. Essentially, I think I could be stricter with what I'm doing. I could make sure definitely that I go to sleep in an actual bed, in an actual bedroom, because I'm still lackadaisical about that. I could make sure that the room is dark. It's mostly dark, but because I live in the country, I don't always pull all the blinds and curtains and all of that. And, we have various devices that have little glowing lights, the smoke detectors or the router or whatever have little lights on them. So I could definitely try to darken those things. I could try using blackout curtains or blinds so I'm not subject to as much sunlight in the morning. I could ban the dog from the room in general. Honestly, I probably won't do that. She's my little dog. I could go with the full recommendation of quitting screens a full hour before bed instead of just approximately 30 minutes. And I could try avoiding caffeine earlier in the day. So those are all things that I might look at in the future. In particular, like the past week or so, I'd say my sleep has been really awful. And then in the past 2 nights, it has gotten better. Today was actually, it's a weekend, so it was a really lazy sort of day. It's been very, very hot. So I kind of felt nappy a large portion of the day. So I slept much better last night, and I was very sore from working out actually on Thursday. So I've been getting progressively sore. Today is Saturday. So I actually felt like I got a good night's sleep last night, and what a huge difference it made. So that's what I experimented with for the month of May 2020. If you liked this content, give it a like. If you think someone else could use it, feel free to share it. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching.